future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
This is Dr. Judy of Dr. Judy WTF, and I want to welcome today a very special guest, one of the team members of the Psychological Healing Center, Atosa Veiseh, who has her master's degree and her M.F.T.I, master's in, go ahead.
I have master's in psychological mindfulness and
As a couples counselor. She's one of our...
I specialize in couples therapy, and also I do multi-generational genograms, and with Dr. Judy, of course, we do the mind map therapy.
Yeah, so tonight our topic is attachment styles and their effects on romantic relationships, marriages, and other romantic relationships. And this is very important because for those of you who have been watching the shows, you know a little bit about the mind map and how the mind map is a pathway to explain wounds of childhood, how they embed, and how to decode from the damages of the past and morph into a paradigm shift into health. So just a little bit about the mind map for those of you who are not familiar with it. Let me know when the mind map is up, please. Thank you very much. And by the way, this is a call-in show. So for those of you who would like to get on the couch with your emotional ouch with me and Atosa, please, we are here and we are interruptible. So we will be talking about a lot of different attachment styles tonight, but do call in and do share with us what's going on with you. So the mind map was actually started as a macro project for healing global disconnect, quite a very ambitious project I had in mind back in the early 2000s. And it morphed into a treatment plan for people to understand how the wounds of childhood, which there are 5 of, there is physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, smothering, and neglect. And out of these 5 wounds, what happens is that the child, the baby, you, us as a human race, we soak in these wounds and we're affected by them. And then as a result of that, we have reactions to these wounds, which is the panel 2 that you're seeing in front of you for those of you who are able to watch. And as this continues on, what happens is that these pre-verbal messages that are really being recorded in the emotional brain or the amygdala then get translated into cognitions. And these cognitions become our negative core beliefs, horrible core beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, and so on and so forth. And
I'm too fat.
I'm too fat.
I am not self-worth. I don't have my self-worth. I don't have any self-value for myself. And this is what I was raised with. This is all the negative thoughts that I was raised with.
Right. And so that's how we are blueprinted. And so at the Psychological Healing Center, our purpose is to unravel all that mess and take it apart piece by piece and track the chaos, track the defense mechanisms.
And process every single one of them step by step.
Correct. And Atosa, you do a lot of work with couples. So what we're really doing in terms of couples is we're seeing how one person's wounds of childhood commingle and trigger another person's wounds of childhood and set them off into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And so this is what I refer to as the WTF, or the what the Freud, and the patterns of repetition, which Atosa referred to as the multi-generational patterns of repetition.
Of course. And there's a diversity among couples. There are black, white. There are wife from France, Persian, and there are intermixes. There's a lot of intermixes marriages currently, and different socioeconomic background. There's different family of origin, different traditional value systems. Everything has been different, and now they come together.
In America, a melting pot.
It's a melting pot, obviously.
Right.
And now they have to deal with the Americanized way of living, and that's where everything has become triggered, and we refer to the mind map. Actually, what I do is take every single, I take the husband and the wife, and I process them, and I make a genogram, how you were raised. How did your parents deal with conflict? How did they manage alcohol? You know, in some cultures, alcohol is it's very normal, especially the Europeans.
And as I say to everybody out there, that just because it's culturally acceptable, it doesn't mean it's mentally healthy. Okay, so in some cultures, let's bring out the alcohol, which might be fine unless someone is having an addiction to the alcohol, then it's not that fine. Yeah. And so again, I really want to emphasize that we're looking at things through a lens of vision that is also culturally sensitive. Now, being
of course,
that
and attachment styles.
Different
cultures have different attachment styles.
Okay, so being
so
that you're
for
Persian,
example, for example, the Middle Eastern attachment style is it's enmeshed. It is truly the helicopter mom, the smothering. Oh, baby, did you eat? What time did you come? What time did you go? Where did you go? With who did you go? What time you're coming? You have a curfew at 11.
I know, I heard you on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And these become relevant. It becomes generation to generation. Grandmothers did it to our mother did it to us, and I'm doing it to my children. This is just, it goes on and on and on and on, and it is chronic enmeshment, and it becomes a form of people-pleasing. You form people-pleasing attitudes, behaviors.
Okay, so one of the things that I notice in the Persian culture, and you know more about because you've lived it, is that there is a great amount of enmeshment.
Yes.
In the Persian culture.
And that causes chronic anxiety in most of the family members.
Okay, and also some level of codependence, would you think?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's go back for a moment to the mind map and dissect it and understand what so why don't you help everybody understand what is secure attachment?
So let's go to panel 1, for example.
Yes.
Panel 1 consists of you talked about different set of standards, abandonment, neglect, emotional attachment. So we have our Persian community. It's basically, we do the secure attachment. It's eye contact. It is feeding the baby every 5 minutes. The baby...
Every 5 minutes, okay.
You know, it's constant hugging, constant smothering, constant
It's a very warm
touch.
culture.
It is a very warm country.
Okay.
It is. It's fantastic, actually. It's secure attachment. Most of the families, they do that secure attachment behavior style. And that becomes the family of origin.
Okay.
And when they grow up as adults, they tend to marry people with secure attachment.
Okay.
Secure attachment tends to marry secure attachment.
So,
and that has to do with honesty level. It has to do with a lot of other components that comes with it.
So define, so there, could you please define for everybody listening, there are 4 attachment styles, and one of the reasons that I invited Atosa on this particular show is because she did her dissertation on attachment theory, and just a little bit about attachment theory based on John Bowlby.
Yes, absolutely.
Father of attachment theory. Back to what's healthy: eye contact, skin contact, breastfeeding, stay-at-home mothering, good enough parenting, meaning that there isn't high levels of anxiety and abuse and neglect and so on. So if you could please define the 4 attachment styles.
So the first attachment style is the secure attachment.
Okay.
Which consists of constant eye contact, constant hugging, constant attending to the child. And attachment usually forms the first 2 years of any child. So that's when the secure attachment.
You could talk to the audience.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So that's when the attachment style actually forms the first 2 years of your life. And then when they become adults, they usually become secure attached, and they become family oriented, and they have honesty behaviors, they have authenticity, they have clear communication skills with their romantic partners.
Okay.
They have
And they usually don't have a high level of divorce, correct?
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
There is, with secure attachment adults, when they
Secure
are
to secure.
secure to secure,
Okay.
because they like intimacy, they like hugging, because they're used to it. Their mothers have done it for them, and that's how they know things.
So they're not the avoidant type.
No.
Okay,
So whereas the avoidant attachment style is when the mother is emotionally there sometimes not there. So the child grows up feeling not wanting to be rejected. They become very independent, and they form a different kind of behavior, and they tend to attract other avoidant attached.
And also with avoidant attachment, we were talking earlier that the child is trained not to cling to the mother. The child is actually trained not to cry.
Yes.
And actually what happens in avoidant attachment, I've seen this with my patients as well, is that the infant senses that they're just too much for the mother. And the mother is signaling them to not lean on them too hard. So they develop what I call unhealthy independence.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right. So they're independent, but they're not really independent, because in order to form healthy independence, you have to be dependent before you're independent.
So talking about the Erikson stages, it's trust versus mistrust. There is no trust, whereas secure attachment, those individuals become, as adults, and they become very trustworthy. They trust their partners, whereas avoidant attachment, children, they grow up not trusting their partners. Where are you? What time are you coming home? Who were you with? That
The
kind
paranoia,
of, the
right?
paranoia.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please do call in 323-843-2826 and talk to us about your attachment styles, because we're going to start moving into how this translates into romantic relationships. But go ahead and talk about the other attachment styles as well.
Of course, there's another one called disorganized attachment style, and that's when the parenting, the primary caregiver has been in control all the time, and that is not healthy at all either. The disorganized child
and
becomes,
also the psychotic parents.
Yes, of course.
They create when
Yes.
disorganized. Think about a disorganized mental state. Not only
Usually those are with the parents that involve domestic violence, that there's a lot of conflict between the parents to begin with, and the mother is anxious, and the mother doesn't know what to do with the child.
or psychotic.
Or psychotic. Yes.
So the ground, the lay of the land, so to speak, is very disorganized. So the child never has any security. They don't know if they're coming or going. There's nothing to rely on. I talk a lot about the pillars. The parents are the pillars. And if we don't have these parental pillars, then the child doesn't have the stability to grow up the
ladder.
Right, up the ladder.
Solid foundation. There's no
Correct.
solid foundation for any of those children with disorganized parenting style, because they grow up not trusting anybody to begin with, intimacy is more about more sex, not making love. It becomes everybody's isolation.
Okay.
It's actually Erickson's developmental stages. It's intimacy versus isolation. And those children growing up as adults, they tend to isolate themselves.
Okay.
And then talking about the panels, the core belief of those children, the negative thought is that I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. Right.
I have no self-worth. I have no self-value. And then they suit themselves mostly with drugs, their alcohol, porn, what have you.
Right, the defense mechanisms. And Atosa and I were just talking earlier about the core belief of the people who are avoidantly attached, and their core belief is that somehow relationships are smothering, they're dangerous, they will lose their identity in the process of merging. They have kind of call it a fear of merging.
Yes.
And that they're somehow, if they get together with another person, they're going to be less than. And if you don't mind putting up panel number 7, visually you can see, if you're watching and not listening, you can always watch it if you are listening later. You can see that these interconnected circles represent interconnection within relationships. I'm using it metaphorically, of course. And what happens with the avoidant attachment person is they don't really want to merge. They don't want to bring it together.
No.
Because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they merge, something's going to be taken from them.
And they lack communication skills.
And they do. So they don't have the boundaries to say back off, or this doesn't feel good, or let's renegotiate this.
They don't know how to express their feelings. And that's when the wife usually says, well, I'm going to leave you. And the husband is mostly that kind of a behavior, says, I don't care. Or the wife says, I don't care. It's a I don't care kind of a relationship, whatever you want to do. Because I'm independent and I know what to do and I can survive. I did it when I was 2 years old. That's right. They don't want to solve problems. That's how they deal with conflict.
They want to avoid.
They want to avoid. They want to isolate themselves. They know what to do. They're all that.
So let's move into the direction of, you do a lot of couples therapy.
Yes, I do.
And without, of course, divulging confidentiality, maybe you can talk about a case that you've been seeing lately where you can say, oh, this is an anxious attached woman to somebody who's an avoidant attached person, and what that looks like in the therapy session in their life. I'm challenging you, Atosa.
I know, that's a big deal, huh?
Okay, but it's something that I know you deal with.
Yes, I deal with it all the time, and I try to take them all the way to panel 1, actually.
Okay.
I take each of the members of the couple, I take... usually the ladies go first.
Ladies go first. How polite of you.
Yeah. Usually. And, I take them and I do a genogram of their whole family, starting with the grandparents, how you were raised.
Okay, so
what triggers you when your husband puts his shoes in the middle of the living room? So these are the traditional value systems that you are raised with. It's culturally, it is socioeconomic levels, it's your environment, it is your I see a lot of couples that have immigration issues when they were little kids.
Okay, so these are all the layers that go on.
Yes.
This. But what happens really at the core of these people? So you've got so-and-so and such and such.
I'd rather talk about the secure attached. I have a couple right now.
Okay, go ahead.
If it's okay. I have a lovely man, secure attached.
Okay.
And highly educated. And plus, education comes along with that.
Okay.
It's an ingredient.
Okay.
It's a factor. And so secure attached comes from a lovely, solid foundation.
Okay.
He knows what he's doing. He's honest. He's authentic. Highly educated. Whereas his his partner, his romantic partner, comes from a very disorganized family.
Okay.
Not disorganized, but I would say avoidant / anxious attachment style,
Okay.
which she was never good enough. She was always compared to her other siblings.
Okay.
She always had to get an A to be somebody.
So I'm just wondering
Overachievers.
what drew him to her. What do you think?
First of all, she's gorgeous.
Okay, that doesn't reminds me of a bad joke. You know, the bad joke. I'll just say it. It's really bad.
But really, what attracted him to her was that she's independent. And of course she's independent because she grew up in an avoidant attachment lifestyle. Her mother never picked her up from school. She had to figure out how to get home.
That's a very interesting point, because in this case, I think there was a confusion between avoidant and independent. An avoidant could actually look independent.
Yes.
However, an avoidant and a true independent person, they're not the same at the core, because in terms of the Ericksonian model, let's say we're going back to developmental psychology, we have to be able to establish that independence on our original primary caretaker. And through that, we become independent. But if we're shoved out the door too soon, it's a problem. And in certain cultures, that's encouraged, that they have to grow up quickly. I have one particular man that I'm working with now who had to grow up too quickly. And I would say that at this particular point in his life, he is wanting his childhood that he never had.
Okay.
And so
does he have both parents? Why did he have to grow up?
Because there were financial difficulties and he had to take
socioeconomic issues.
Really early on, early in his teens, he had to be the man of the house. And so he never got to be...
But that's culturally as well. Middle Eastern men, they grow up fast too.
Yes.
Yeah.
In some cultures, that is the case.
Yeah.
In this particular case, he's an American man. And what the backlash of it that I want people to understand is that when you're forced into this independence, when you're forced into it, then you then start missing the childhood that you never had. And the backlash is now he wants to play. Yeah. And now he wants to shirk his responsibilities. And so there are a lot of people involved here because he's got
these
a whole
people
family.
They don't want commitment. They're afraid of commitment.
Well, this one is in a commitment.
I know, but they're afraid.
He's trying to buck the system. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and again, this is a call-in show, so please call in and get on the couch with your emotional ouch, 323-843-2826. So we're talking about attachment styles and their effects on romantic relationships. And for those of you who don't already have my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, it's an easy read. It's a pretty easy read. It's delving into the mind map and the from through to model, the wounds of childhood, how they embed, and how people in the psychological healing center system go through the process to morph out of this dysfunctional system, or as I like to call it, a system gone wrong. And you can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on my mind map on my website at psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And for those of you who want a free copy of a beautiful mind map, please write me and I will send you one. And you can write me at Dr. Judy at psychologicalhealingcenter.com, and I will send you a really beautiful new version of the mind map. So back to the topic of, let's go back to the disorganized attachment people.
Sure. The disorganized attachment people, they usually move out when they become adults in a very young age. Those are the runaways. Those are trying to get away from all the control. They're trying to get away from the authoritarian parenting style. They cannot stand it. They're being controlled. And usually these family members, these adults, they were involved in domestic violence, psychotic parents.
So I have a question. When you say controlled, because I get confused. When I say controlling, I'm seeing it as not controlling. I'm seeing it as very disorganized.
Yeah, disorganized.
Right.
That means that the parents, the mother was never there to seek any nurturing to these little youngsters.
Okay.
They never saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in our society, of course, the women work now, so the mothers are not home usually.
Well, it's only
You know?
okay. And I want to bring this up because I know I've had a lot of calls from women who have to
Yeah,
work. So
they
we
have
can't
to.
say, unfortunately, a lot of women want to work. And so
Yeah.
the thing with attachment theory that I want to bring up is that obviously I'm a working person, and
Yeah, so am I.
you know,
but
so
it's very crucial the first 2 years of the
Absolutely.
child. So crucial for the mother
Absolutely.
to be there.
So in the first 2 years of life, it's
Yeah.
important, if you're going to work, it's better to work out of your home, if possible. If you're going to work, it's important that a primary caregiver is there. So if not you, then maybe your husband or a grandma could be doing that.
Yeah.
Attachment theory really states that nature,
It defines you.
pardon me?
It defines you as an adult.
It's the blueprint.
Yeah.
And so this is a nature versus nurture. And so since we can't do very much about nature, I can't do anything about the fact that I have brown eyes or you have brown eyes. We're not going to change that in any kind of therapy. However, it is important to know that there's a lot that we can do about nature gone wrong. And if you are a parent or if you are in a significant relationship, it's very important for you to clean up your own psychological wounds so that you don't infect other people, because as we grow closer to other individuals, we are wired to connect, and we are also very we also affect each other. We're interconnected whether we like it or not. And so if your spouse, for example, is not nurturing, right?
Yes.
That's going to have a profound effect on your level of anxiety and your level of
course.
depression and your life force and so on. And if your spouse is, on the other hand, very
Not feeling lovable.
right,
Okay. Or good enough.
yeah, then it'll trigger off your core beliefs.
Yes.
And it's again, it's that what the Freud phenomenon. So everything goes haywire. Mr. and Mrs. or two people meet, they get involved, they like each other because for whatever reasons, and then what's very interesting always to me is that relationships become the playing field
Yes.
in what is triggered off between
Yes.
two people.
But Dr. Judy, you have to also realize opposites attract. Sometimes a secure, attached person, for example, the couple that I have,
Okay.
is involved with a lovely, beautiful woman that comes from an avoidant attachment style.
Okay.
And she's very independent. So
But
independency.
not really independent.
No, but the form of independency, what I want to communicate with you is that it doesn't matter to communicate to her partner if she wants to buy something, but it matters for him because he comes from a secure, attached parenting style. So whatever he wants to do, he likes the opinion of his romantic partner.
Okay.
Whereas
And how does it work?
she's more independent. She doesn't want the opinion. She doesn't care because she has her own mind. She sets up her own mind.
Okay.
She has been living it. She believes in it, and that's how it is. And that creates conflict sometimes.
And who pays the bill? That's important.
Yes,
because
she does.
Oh,
she
she
also
does.
works.
Okay, so
she
if
also
pays,
works.
All right, so
Yes.
if she pays the bill, then I guess she gets
Yes.
to control her
She
own
does.
money.
Yes, she
Right.
does. But where the man comes from a secure attachment lifestyle. That means you ask your partner, oh, should I buy it? Should I not buy it? The opinion matters.
I think you're talking about the interconnection.
Yes, the interconnection.
The interconnection versus this particular woman sounds like she looks independent, but she doesn't really know how to do panel number 7. If you could put the image up again. She does not know how to lessen her boundaries and share. Okay, so what does it take to be able to share? For example, in order to share, you have to have enough goodies, emotional goodies.
Self-confidence.
Not only self-confidence. You have to have emotional supplies, which then translates, I agree, to self-confidence. But if you don't have the emotional
skills.
Goodies, I'm talking about the foundational
No, she doesn't
goods.
have a solid,
The core.
The core
of
belief.
her. Right.
Yes.
So all of these things like communication skills and self-confidence grow out of that core.
Yes.
Okay. So but at the core, if people don't have what to give, then then interesting things will happen. They will either latch on to others who they deem as good supply. We've talked a lot about that.
But yet they're very fearful of rejection also.
Fearful of rejection, but the supply aspect of it is that they're low on narcissistic supply, so they'll hook up with somebody to get the narcissistic supply, and if that supply runs out, then they might start looking for fresh supply, or maybe have 2 or 3 suppliers going on. It's beginning to sound like a drug deal here, but it's true.
But that happens.
So
that happens all the time.
It's an emotional drug.
Yes, it is an emotional drug.
So it points to the fact that it is so important, it's so vital to do as much psychological healing as
Sometimes they live in
possible.
a pseudo-self. Sometimes they do live in a pseudo-self.
Okay, could you elaborate on pseudo-self?
Pseudo-self means your false self. You are living somebody that you want to please. You are living with somebody that it just comes with chronic anxiety, actually. You have to do this. Just be quiet. Be your false self and
Compliant.
Compliant.
Okay.
Exactly. Compliant. Just to dissolve conflict, just to put everything under the rug, to just get away with yelling and screaming. That's all. So you
We have a call in? Okay. Thank you for calling in. And you're on the couch with Dr. Judy and Atosa. And
Dr.
what is
Judy,
your name, please?
Dale from Washington.
Hello?
Hello? Dale from Washington?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear
Oh.
the person.
And what is your question?
Well, I think this is a good show tonight, and I think I've been listening to the program over the last few months, and my wife and I are benefiting from it. I think what we both come to the conclusion with is
I can't hear
instead of
you.
reacting, we're now being aware of we're at a new level, and we've gone away from reacting and responding to thinking about what we're saying and doing and what potential effect it'll have on the other party. And it keeps things in line so much cleaner. I mean, I guess that's what everybody says, be in the moment or be aware of what you're doing. I think that's what you're helping to teach.
Yes.
And tonight's subject with all of the secure attachment and avoidant attachment, and what were the other two?
Disorganized and ambivalent.
Ambivalent. Yeah, I never heard that before, so that's really another awareness for me to be aware of, to find out what my spouse came from and where I came from, and then we can be aware of what we can possibly trigger each other from and why it happens that way.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to thank you for that.
Great. You're welcome.
And I just got some communication in my ear. So what is your name, please?
Dale from Washington.
Very nice to meet you, Bill. Have you been listening for a while now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dale from Washington.
Dale from Washington. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So Dale.
I was just saying, Dr. Judy, that this show tonight, I have listened to you. It's the first time I've heard about the different types of ambivalent and avoidant and secure. It was really nice of you to bring all this out, and that as we listen, my wife and I have become more aware of each other.
Yes.
as opposed to just responding and reacting and getting into these unknown why we react, because of the wounding and everything, all this unconsciousness that we live life. I think 95% of the problems are this unconscious living.
Right.
And what you're doing is making people aware and say, get out of the unconscious and get into the awareness.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for doing that. You're so good at that.
It's really an honor, and I'm very fortunate to have wonderful team members like Atosa who study at the Psychological Healing Center, and we're a team. We're a team, and so
it's an absolute pleasure to work with Dr. Judy. I'm learning with her. I'm learning as I work alongside her. She's unbelievable.
That's very sweet.
Everybody that's come on your show has been phenomenal, and your staff is just some of the best. I really appreciate that.
Well, it really is a pleasure. I love to teach, by the way, and I think what's really important is not so much whether you're well, it is important if you're secure or ambivalent or disorganized or anxious attachment. The key here that I really want to emphasize to you and everybody is the aspect of empathy. Empathy goes a long way. So if you could step into your wife's shoes and she can step into your shoes, that's what couples therapy is about. It's not
consideration.
Right. And just to understand, look, it's not that people wake up every morning and say to themselves, I'm really going to mess up my husband or my wife or my lover's day. That's not it. It's just that as you said, all of this unconscious material is being triggered. And so if people can just understand their own wounds of childhood and the wounds of childhood of their spouse or significant other, and understand what their negative core beliefs are, which you can figure out in the course of therapy.
Yes.
And then not step on each other's Achilles heel, because really, ultimately, we're all very delicate.
Oh, yes.
And we're never going to be perfect human beings. So isn't it just better to have a partner who has your back, right? And understands you, and then you can teach skills on how to deal with a person who is anxiously attached, because maybe a person who's anxiously attached needs a little bit more text messaging. Well, hopefully not too much on the cell phone.
Yeah, they're clingy.
But they need a little bit more assurance. And maybe the person who has avoidant attachment needs a little bit of space. But imagine, Atosa, the person who has anxious attachment has a core belief that she's not lovable, and when the avoidant avoids, boom, it's triggered and takes the person on a WTF ride. Chaos defenses. But see, Dale, this is where people can become aware and say, oh, he doesn't really mean that he doesn't care. He just needs some space. He's got a different system of operating.
It's already working in our household, and it was all because of your show. So
thank you.
I think you cannot be aware, and you can't be empathetic unless you're aware of why you're needing to be empathetic.
Exactly. Right.
And so I think this awareness is so critical to what you're doing, and
thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for calling in, Dale. Really appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is it. We're not perfect people. We never are going to be perfect people. As much as we heal, we're always going to have scars, right?
Yeah, so, the main ingredients of a happy couple is clear communication skills, friendship, honesty, marriage is hard. Marriage is not easy. There's bumps in the road. But as long as you know how to play with each other, you know what triggers each other, and you sacrifice, you compromise, and that's how you grow together. And that's what a healthy relationship is all about.
And I want to also bring up the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, which also is up on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. You could pull it right off of there and have it and use it. And the Peaceful Healing Dialogue is a dialogue to help people to not disconnect and to connect.
That's very important.
The disconnects, because we're always going to We're always going to disconnect.
We're human beings. We're wired to connect. We are born with this oxytocin. Actually, let's talk about oxytocin.
Let's talk about that. Okay.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to talk about the oxytocin level that it is established and formed and developed the first 2 years of your life.
So tell the audience a little bit
That
about what's
is-
oxytocin.
It's the attachment hormone. It is the emotional hormone. It is what we're wired to do. As soon as we are born, the doctor actually places the child on the mother's chest.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Right? Yeah. Not some doctors.
Or
but
a
hopefully they do.
touch. They need
Yes.
touch. They need feelings. And that's when the attachment forms. And that's when the mother is breastfeeding, that's when attachment is forming. That is when the oxytocin level is actually increasing.
Right.
It's going up. And then little by little, the child seeks the primary caregiver, whoever it may be, that's feeding them, that's changing them, that is attending to them on a timely manner.
Right.
And every time the child cries, and the mother or the primary caregiver, maybe the father these days, you know,
Yeah.
and whoever, the grandmother, it's very important to be attentive.
Yes.
When the child is born in an attentive, loving family lifestyle, and they grow up to be trustworthy people, honest people, they seek education more, they're looking for romantic partners to attend to those needs.
So I want to talk a little bit more also about oxytocin
Yes.
because it's the bonding drug.
It is.
And so it's
Yeah.
that chemical in the body that's released during breastfeeding, and not only is the baby getting it, but the mother's feeling it, and so it's co-creating this bond. And then the father, and I talk about this in my book very much so, is has a very important role because he has to nurture
absolutely.
the nurturer, nurture the
Yeah.
nurturer.
He is the base of the pillar, actually.
Yeah.
He's
In a
provided.
traditional family, yes.
It is. The fathers have a big role to play. They are role models for the children.
And you know, there's so many different types of families out there. So sometimes people are in a gay family, or
absolutely.
same-sex family. So in that
Yeah.
case, it's not necessarily the male or the female; it's the primary caregiver. And the secondary caregiver. And so it's a system. So if one of the people in the system is doing all of the primary caregiving, it's the secondary caregiver that's supposed to nurture the nurturer in order to make sure that she gets the nurturing. So going back to that peaceful healing dialogue, and again, this is a call-in show, and if you want to get on the couch with your attachment theory styles and how they create either harmony or chaos within your relationship, please do call in 323-843-2826. So I want to talk a little bit more about the peaceful healing dialogue because it's impossible to stay connected 24/7. You know, anything can disconnect a couple.
Absolutely.
Maybe a phone call, or maybe a bad mood, or some kind of psychosocial stressor. Person loses their job or gets really upset at an event in life, or just they don't like the way their spouse is looking at them or talking to them. So it's not about tracking all these disconnects. It's really about healing human disconnect.
Yeah.
It's healing it because it's going to happen. So the peaceful healing dialogue is a way to talk to your significant other, and I don't know, maybe we could take a couple of minutes to demo it. What do you think?
Go for it.
Okay, I'm going for it. Let's do creative show here. Okay, so I'm going to be I'm going to be playing the role of your girlfriend. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
are we married?
We're married.
Okay.
You're my girlfriend.
Okay.
All right. So we're married.
Girlfriend
You're
or
my,
wife? It makes a difference.
You're my wife.
Wife, because
Okay, so
wives-
we're a gay couple in this role
Great.
playing. You're my
Okay.
wife, okay?
Uh-huh.
And so, Atosa, can I talk to you about what what happened the other day, please? Is this good timing for you?
Yes, I have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. I'll roll with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point is that in peaceful healing dialogue, you have to ask the permission of the other person if it's good timing. Because if it's not good timing, don't even go there. You're going to get the person very defensive, and you'll be stuck in panel number 5, defense mechanisms. Okay. So,
and by the way, the tone of voice, the way you ask, is also
Yes.
very important.
Thank you.
If it's yelling and high-pitched voice,
Yes.
the amygdala is shut down. The amygdala and
is activated.
it's
actually.
activated.
Right.
Okay, and in men, the prefrontal cortex, you don't hear it. They
Okay.
don't hear it.
Great points. So the communication
If you're
style
yelling and screaming, they just don't hear it.
not going to be heard.
You-
Okay.
You're not going to be heard.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to try my gentle way.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tusa, can I talk to you about what happened the other day?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
really appreciate it. So remember when I asked you to take out the garbage,
Yes.
and you promised to do it before
Yes.
the end of the evening?
Yes.
Okay. So the truth is that when I woke up in the morning, the garbage was filled, and the trash people already hauled off the trash, and it was really, really, it was very stressful for me, because you know how I am. I'm very clean, as you know, and I don't like the smell of things in the house. And then that trash has to sit there another week because the trash people came already. So the point is that when that happened, I felt really, really ignored by you.
I'm so sorry you felt that way. But the truth is, I know I promised you, and I know how OCD you are about trash. But, an important phone call came, and I really needed to get it because I'm a financial supporter of this family, and that call was really important for our family, for our system. So I will promise you, next time I'll do it on time.
Okay.
But this time, I'm so sorry. I know how you feel about it, but I put it in the garage somewhere so you don't smell it.
You did that?
Yes, I
That
did.
was really nice of you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so in the future, can I ask you a favor, please?
Yes.
If that happens, and I know life happens, and maybe you couldn't
Yeah.
get out there in time, just let me know. Okay?
Okay.
Just let me know so that I know what's going on.
Sure.
And I really respect the fact that you're the provider of the family, and I really appreciate it. And I understand that sometimes you just have to put that as the priority. And another thing that I want to share with you is that it's a core belief that I'm working on, which is that I don't matter. So when you did that, it triggered.
But you do matter to me. Your
Okay.
voice is clearly
Appreciate it.
heard, and I love you for that.
Thank
and
you.
I always appreciate your thoughts, your feelings, and how OCD you are.
Thanks. Do we have another call? Okay. So thank you. So that's a little sample of the peaceful healing dialogue, and it
Plus,
includes.
among couples, laughter is very important. You
Yeah.
can laugh at each other, not at each other, but with each other. It's very important to laugh.
And this was a really nice example of it, because
Yeah.
I got it that what she was doing was not just a nonchalant, I don't care about you, you don't matter to me. She was actually doing something to help the family. And so in this particular conversation, I asked her to please let me know, because my negative core belief in this example, mock example,
Yeah.
is that I don't matter. And so she was telling me, yes,
Yes,
you matter.
you do
matter. I
matter.
put that
A
garbage
lot.
in the garage so you wouldn't smell it. Okay, so I think this is a great way to play ball with each
Not
other.
only you matter,
Yeah.
you're the mother of my children.
Oh.
So that's very important to
How
me.
many children do we have? I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you for playing with that particular
Anytime.
peaceful healing dialogue demo. And I want you to hear this, as I know we kind of got playful about it and so on. And it's just very important to remember timing, tone of voice,
Absolutely. Tone of voice is very, very crucial. Very important. It scientifically, you shut down when somebody's yelling at you. Scientifically.
Okay.
And it's so important to use lower tone of voice in order to speak and transmit your communication skills.
And I have seen over and over again that when people don't deliver the message in a peaceful, healing dialogue way, the message gets lost, and the person delivering the message is the one that they get angrier at the person. So there's nothing peaceful or healing in this particular situation. So I know we just have a couple of minutes of time. I usually do that, shrink that tune, but I think we kind of pushed the tune out of the ballpark, so we're going to pick that up next time, okay? And just a couple of things for everybody to remember during the holidays. We're getting into the holidays now, and I know that there's been big debate about going contact or no contact with families and friends and so on. And I just want to let everybody know, please remember to take it case by case basis with this no contact business, and also to let everybody know that it's okay to put yourself number one. And in terms of attachment style, just remember that if your parents were not securely attached and they suffered from massive panel 1 wounds, which a lot of the people that we work with at the Psychological Healing Center suffer from, just understand that they don't have the capacity. And so please don't take it personally if they're not able to love you. I get letters upon letters. My parents don't love me. Okay, but the point is they don't have the capacity. And then you have that negative core belief formed around their lack of capacity that translates into I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, and so on. And so please remember that you are not the cause of part 1 of your life. That your parents are the blueprint, and they're the cause, and their parents. And Atosa, you do a lot of work with multi-generational genograms and so on, and you can actually diagram attachment style and injuries and so on, and take it back generation upon generation. And at the end of the road, it's up to us, it's up to you to break that multi-generational chain and heal through it so that you can heal and that the future generation doesn't have to be at the effect of the wounds of the present generation. And if you don't already have a copy of my book, please, you can go online, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, available through my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com or amazon.com. And I wish everybody a wonderful December, and we'll be back next week. And thank you so much for joining in.
And I'd like to thank Dr. Judy for inviting me, and I really want to thank you for making this happen. And I really want to thank you for everything you've done for me.
Very, very much appreciated. And she truly is a wonderful counselor at our center and does excellent couples work. And I know how much you love to work with couples.
Thank you.
And we do Skype therapy. So for anybody that is not in Los Angeles or even in the United States continent of, we do a lot of teletherapy. So please contact.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.